By staying on the call, we assume you grant us consent to this recording. So we'll only have you for a very limited time of an hour. So I'll go ahead and introduce the WinS Network. By the way, my name is Marge Lim, and I'm part of the WinS Network Secretariat. So some of you may have already seen this presentation, bits and pieces of this from the capacity development thematic session in the ILE, but for those who haven't, I'll just give a brief introduction. The WinS Network is an informal network that brings together Washington schools champions like yourselves here in order to align strategies and exchange best practices among others. And some of the thematic areas we work in, you will see on the screen. And for more information, I would like to lead you to our website, www.winsnetwork.org. And we currently have over 400 members, and we would like to invite you to be part of the WinS Network by filling out the registration form. So I will keep this screen here for a moment while I introduce our session moderator, who probably doesn't need the introduction. I'm sure all of you already know her. So Belinda Abraham, who supports the WinS Network Secretariat among many other hats she's wearing, is moderating our session. So over to you, Belinda.
Yes, hello. Glad that everybody is joining from the corners of the world that you are. I think we have a great program today, and glad that we're all here and connected, and also looking forward to some discussions and follow-ups and reflections from all of you. So thank you first for the WinS Network for having me and being part of the WinS Network, and I hope more members join. So with that, today's agenda. We're going to start with a pre-recorded presentation by Christy Chatterley. She's going to do, I think many of you saw the JMP report, the 2024 report, which highlights MHH. And we will have, unfortunately, because of the time zone, we won't have questions and answers with her, but we can put them on the chat and we will try to answer them. And we may have somebody join us who can help us with that. If not, we will take the questions down and share them with Christy and then have them replied back via the WinS Network. Then we'll have our presentation by our own Bella Muntz. She is here, and we can also do real-time Q&A questions. And then we'll follow by then a panel discussion. We're great to have Liko Botoman. He's Director of the Social Cohesion Equity Department of Education in South Africa. We have Mr. Lamin Federa. He is the Program Manager from the Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene Ministry of Health in the Gambia, and should have been corrected, I see, but we have Esther who will be joining us. So with that then, followed by then we'll have reflections. So I am going to now pass to the next. So as I mentioned, Christy Chatley, she's currently the Associate Professor of Engineering at the Fort Lewis College and is also a WASH consultant. So let's go and we will play.
Hi, thank you for including the JMP in this post-ILE webinar. We're excited to share an update with the final data from the recently published WASH in Schools Global Progress Update. So we'll focus in on if we're on track to meet the SDGs for WASH in Schools, and we'll see where the Sub-Saharan Africa region falls within that as well. So we'll focus on what proportion of schools have basic WASH services, and we'll do a reminder of what basic WASH services means for schools considering the SDGs. We'll look at data to see if we're on track to meet the SDGs for WASH in Schools by 2030, and then we'll hone in on a special focus that this last report had on menstrual health and look at what proportion of schools have various types of menstrual health services. So as a reminder, WASH in Schools is in the SDGs. It is implicitly included in SDG 6, focusing on water and sanitation, and explicitly included in SDG 4, where target 4A1 is the proportion of schools with 7 different things. The last 3 refer to WASH in schools: basic drinking water, basic sanitation, and basic hand washing facilities. And there's a note in the SDGs that says, as per WASH indicator definitions. And what that refers to is what we see in the blue, green, and purple boxes here. So basic drinking water service means there's drinking water from an improved source and water is available at the school at the time of the survey. For sanitation, there are improved sanitation facilities, they're single sex, and they're usable, meaning available, functional, and private at the time of the survey. And then basic hygiene service means they're hand washing facilities and they have water and soap available at the time of the survey or at the time of the EMIS or census. And the JMP uses what we call service ladders to track progressive realization towards indicators. So in yellow, you see a limited service. This means there's some elements of basic service, but not all of the elements are here. So there may be an improved drinking water source, but water is not available. There may be improved sanitation facilities, but they're not usable or they're not single sex. And then for no service, this means very little or no service at all. So for drinking water, there might be an unimproved source like surface water or an unprotected well, or there's no water source at all. And a similar logic for sanitation and hygiene. For the 2024 report, we had data from 1,415 data sources. And many of these data are from education management information systems integrated into national EMIS, which is really exciting. These would be annual data collection systems. And then we produce estimates every 2 years. We publish reports based on updated estimates every 2 years. So the next one will be 2026. And you can see the increase in the number of data sources that we use since the first report for WASH in schools came out in 2018. So if we look at the data that's in the report, we'll see that 77% of schools globally had a basic service. And the year that we use for reporting for the 2024 report is 2023. So in 2023, 77% of schools had basic service, up from 66% in 2015 at the start of the SDGs. This means that globally, almost 500,000 or almost 500 million children lacked basic service at their school. And this is based on data from 138 countries. And if we look at Sub-Saharan Africa, we see it has the lowest coverage for the SDG regions, and the rate of progress is quite slow, even compared to the global rate of progress. And we'll talk about that rate of progress a bit more. For sanitation, 78% of schools had basic service in 2023, up from 68% in 2015. This means 427 million children did not have basic service at their school in 2023. And this is based on data from 144 countries. Again, we see Sub-Saharan Africa is the lowest region for the SDG regions, but it has a similar rate of progress to the global rate of progress. And for hygiene, we estimate that 67% of schools had basic service in 2023, up from 58% in 2015. So 646 million children lacked basic hand washing service at their school in 2023. That means 646 million children could not wash their hands with soap and water when they were at school. And these data are based on 134 countries. And we see Sub-Saharan Africa here. It's the second lowest SDG region, but the rate of progress is actually faster than the global rate of progress. And looking at trends in a bit more detail, we've been talking about a rate of progress. If we look at that globally, we see we need to increase that rate 2 times or twofold for drinking water and sanitation. and 4 times for hygiene in order to meet the SDGs by 2030. So we're not currently on track. We need to increase how fast we're progressing, twice for drinking water and sanitation and 4 times as fast for hygiene. So we've been talking about basic service. It is recognized that this is a minimum level of service, and it's not sufficient for full realization of the human rights to education and water and sanitation. So some countries may choose to define an advanced service. It might include things like water quality, accessibility of wash services in schools, and something else that's mentioned in these lists is menstrual health and hygiene. So every JMP report, we try and do a special focus. And for wash in schools, we try and choose a special focus from this advanced service level rung. And for this last report, we focused on menstrual health. So with our special focus on menstrual health, we covered data availability, as well as the 7 domains from the globally recommended priority indicators. So the domains from that are materials, facilities, knowledge, discomfort disorders, supportive social environment, MH impact, and policy. So we tried to find national data and examples of subnational data from those domains. And we found 30 countries that had nationally representative data on at least one of the priority indicators for schools or schoolgirls. And from that, we could see that globally, around 2 out of 5 schools provide menstrual health education, and around 1 in 3 schools have bins for menstrual waste in girls' toilets. And if we focus in on sub-Saharan Africa more, based on those data, around 1 in 8 schools have menstrual materials available at school. And if we look down here, sub-Saharan Africa, 11% or around 1 in 10 schools had bins available for menstrual waste in girls' toilets, compared to 35% in Central and Southern Asia and 17% in least developed countries as a whole. We found the most data on facilities, knowledge, and materials, and we found fewer data on impacts, discomfort and disorders, and a supportive social environment. We also noticed that definitions are unclear sometimes, or they vary widely between countries. So we need to standardize or harmonize indicators. And one way of doing that is by adopting some of the globally recommended questions and indicators from this priority indicator document. And in summary, a lot of countries have national data on basic wash in school services. Based on those data, globally, we're not on track to meet the SDGs for wash in schools, but we can meet the SDGs by 2030 if we increase the rate of progress 2 times for water and sanitation and 4 times for hygiene. And improving monitoring is one way that we can do this. It can create evidence-based decision-making and motivate faster progress. And then with our special focus on menstrual health, we see that some countries already have data on the emerging MH indicators, but we need greater harmonization or standardization and recommend adopting some of the globally recommended indicators and questions. And then I'll leave you with a question. Did your country have data for the 2024 report? You can find the full report here at washData.org/reports/JMP-2024-WASH-schools. The French version is coming soon. That's the English version currently. And have a look through that report. See if you can find data for your country. If we're missing any data for your country, or if technical support is needed, please don't hesitate to email us at info@washdata.org, and we'd be happy to help out however we can and integrate your national data into the 2026 report. So thank you so much, and I hope the rest of the webinar goes wonderfully.
Yeah, so thank you very, very much, Christy, for that. And I think in the discussions we can go a little bit more on, does your country actually have data for the 2024 report. So if there is any questions, please put them in the chat box. I can't see if there is any related to her presentation, and then we can actually go back to that. And so again, want to welcome everybody, seeing many of our colleagues here from all the various countries. Glad that you are joining. So with that then, I'm going to ask Fred to share his screen, and then I would like to introduce Bella. And Bella, everyone, I think most of you do know Bella already. Bella is working as the senior advisor for Fit for Schools. She has been, I would say, I want to say the mastermind with others. She doesn't want to, you're very humble, Bella. But Bella was one of the, I would say, the early people who came and really brought the sector together around washing schools and WinS. And also, I think one thing that I learned a lot from you and continue to is about the importance of monitoring and making simple, doable actions that actually can make results. And this really came from experiences in Southeast Asia. So with that, the floor is yours to talk us through the outcome document. Thank you, Bella.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I can sorry for my voice. You can see my voice is a bit, as if I had a long night. I had not. I have a little bit of a cold. I hope you can hear me. And I'm also happy to see, thanks Belinda for the nice introduction. And I'm also happy to see many people here in the room, which had been at the ILE. And I think it's important that we in between take stock where we are and use the opportunity to exchange. And also please make use of the chat so that we perhaps later, after we speak briefly about the outcome document, can come back also to some questions people might have to the JMP report. I will briefly speak about the outcome document of the ILE, and perhaps you remember we were together there for 4.5 days, and just to see what did we do. So we really looked at, we had a great time together. I think we were all in all 18 country government representation country delegations there, and I think we were all in all 120 participants. And thanks for the wonderful and really intense contribution and very fruitful discussions. And just in all, what did we do? So we had time for data and development exchange. We really heard from the JMP. We looked at what is the WinS landscape in general at the moment, and we saw what has been the journey so far globally, but also specifically for Africa. Then we had thematic discussions on certain topics. Important was we received Mariah from UNICEF headquarters brought the Wash in Schools acceleration framework to the group. This is the new direction for Wash in Schools coming from UNICEF, and I think all the other partners, all us as partners in Wash in Schools, we really align under this framework so that we all work into one direction. And this new framework is a tremendous shift from service delivery really to system strengthening. It's really supporting and really countries, governments in the lead. It should not be the development partners so much in the lead. It should be really country driven. This is at the core of the acceleration framework. Then we had technical sessions on menstrual health and hygiene, on climate resilience, Wash in Schools programming. We also, it's not listed here, but we also spoke about capacity building concepts and possibilities, how to do capacity building on scale. And of course, we had an introduction to the Economist study, the toilet loss study, to quantify the loss when operation and maintenance is neglected. important topic for WASH in schools. We also had school visits, which are always a great possibility to see things on the ground in the host country. So we all thank Zanzibar for really offering the doors to their schools to us, and also sit with us to discuss the issues, the challenges, but also the achievements. And it was also a possibility to exchange among each other, because if you travel together, you sit in a bus together, or you observe things in a school together, this helps a lot to exchange and compare what's going on in the country you work, and so on. So it's always enriching the experience, and specifically also the dialogue between all the different participants. We also had country dialogues. They're always an important part of the entire format of the learning exchange. Has been developed as a very fruitful peer-to-peer exchange to certain aspects, and country delegations were bringing certain points to the floor, and other countries take the position and from their experience answer to it. So this is a very important piece of the entire ILE concept, and I think we also used it in the area of monitoring. So I think there's so much to learn, which countries can learn from each other and exchange also experience, exchange documents, or even arrange for visiting each other to have even a closer exchange or be able to see things on the ground. Next slide. And out of this, we had some commitments and recommendations. And this is so important we agreed on what is the general direction, so that even in each country will do their own planning or their own roadmap, but it's also good to feel the rest of a whole region or a whole continent to be aligned on certain aspects, and also to feel that all in the different countries we're all on the same direction. Not only, this is not even true for Africa, this is even around the globe. We have these huge directions which we all also support each other, but also which we bring to the global table. And that's on one hand leadership and integration, and it has been agreed and highlighted again that it's so important to empower the education sector to lead the WASH in schools programming, but also to collaborate with other related sectors, with the health sector, the water sector, sometimes the local government sector, to really move WASH in schools forward. Then we have the policy and implementation. So it's super important to really set clear national policies which are aligned with the global direction of the JMP service level definitions. And the JMP, of course, service level definitions are backed up with the SDG monitoring for WASH in schools. And all monitoring. Oh, did I lose you? No, I think it's...
Yes, just briefly on my side, I lost you, Bella, but maybe you were just at the GMP monitoring is where I got the gap. So can you continue from there? Thanks.
Yeah, I was at the policy implementation. I'm now moving to the monitoring. Of course, monitoring data is super important. We agreed on that as well. Setting very clear goals on country level, data-driven decision making, and transparent resource allocation. That was an important part, but also super important to develop and strengthen comprehensive national WinS monitoring systems, and important that they are within the education sector, a data collection whenever possible to be linked to the EMIS system in each country. That was highlighted again and again. And also country delegations were encouraged to get also data on MH if possible. So consider the integration of MH data in the WinS monitoring to have this in and make this transparent. And the last point was also sustainable financing. So important for countries, the countries agreed on the formulation of cross-sectoral funding strategies. This means, again, working also with other sectors. Look, where could the funding for WASH in schools come from? Align with the health sector, with local governments, look to come really up with sustainable funding streams. Important there is to leverage the power of data and use the data for adequate budget allocation. And again, very important, emphasize the mix of operation, maintenance, teachers' time, capacity development, and important to be clear, not to depend on much funding coming from outside, but important to move national funding streams, less dependence on outside funding or parents who have to pay, but it needs to be mainstreamed as an important government investment. And this is all we agreed on to lobby for this within the countries we are working. And please, colleagues, come in to add what I perhaps forgot or where I did not elaborate enough on, because I think this has been agreed on during these days, and I would be happy to hear from your end any additional parts. And I'm very happy that we now also hear where a few country representatives will come up and share what the ILE was for them, or also what kind of actions are currently running in their countries. But if there are other questions prior to this, please bring it up. The floor is open for this. And I give it back to Belinda for the moderation. Thanks a lot. Yeah, you can download, of course, the outcome document, and I encourage everyone, use the document, share it within each country. It's so important. You also, if you share the document, it will also help to mainstream the concept and ideas, to bring other sectors in and to share what we have discussed, and again, mainstream the ideas and concepts. So please, just as an idea, share it again, use it. And all presentations of the ILE are available on the website. The link is also here. You cannot, because sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's a lot is already there, and just make use of it. This should all be of support. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bella. So maybe just to, we have maybe a few minutes. Is there any questions, any reflections? I see that we've got a mixed, well, not a mixed group, but some people who were part of the ILE, who are part of the country level delegations, but didn't come to the ILE. So they may have some questions, or maybe are even seeing the document for the first time. So the floor is yours if you have any questions. We have a few minutes before we get into the discussion session. I think one reflection I would have, and we're going to talk about it as one of the questions in the panel, but on the fourth one, when we're talking about sustainable financing, Bella, it also means that as a WinS network, we also have to change our strategies. I think you use words like lobbying. We need to start being able to look internally and lobby for funds internally. Does that mean that perhaps then more support in the WinS network towards lobbying for financing, advocating for financing will be perhaps a future forward strategy?
You mean in the WinS network? Is that a question to me?
Yeah. Which generally, because well, we need to find new ways to, not new ways, but we need to use internal resources and work with ministries to do that. But that actually lobbying and getting financing is a little bit of a skill as well. It's not that you just go and ask for money and the Minister of Finance says yes. There's got to be a processes to do that.
I see the role of the WinS network here more in supporting countries to do so, because I think I think this entire lobby for financing would be more something in country, so that ministries of education would see where is the budget line for them to allocate funds for washing schools, or what comes from, let's say, rural development sector to improve infrastructure for washing schools. What is the part for, let's say, teachers? What is the knowledge for school heads they should need to have management capacities to integrate washing schools into the school-based management? I think these are things, and this is also a resource. It's also a financial resource, is teachers' time, and that needs to be taken into account, I think. But these are things on country level, and I don't know, the role of the WinS network would perhaps be, if one knows one country, see that there is a webinar that other countries can learn from, or things like this.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
And I think there was another question coming related to the WinS, to the PowerPoint of Christy. Is that correct? I think I saw
there was a question to Christy, and it was, do the MHM indicators harmonization have a platform of discussion ongoing? Do you know that answer?
Yeah, I think it's good to use it's good to bring it perhaps to the WinS network, because we could further bring it to the whole, to make the connection to the MH coalition. There is this MH coalition where Mani Sommer, Therese Mahon, and everybody is, and I think there is also the harmonization. They have come up with a set of harmonized indicators for country level, and we can share it in the WinS network, or we can maybe even share it here. There is a list of harmonized indicators for MH, and that's existing.
I think they're asking, and I think that's the point. Thank you very much, Bella. We're going to go on to the next section, but don't go too far, because we'd love for you to continue the discussion with us. So Fred, I'm going to continue to ask you for your help, because actually I realize when I share my screen, I can't see the chat. So would you mind again sharing the recent one? Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. So then with that, we're going to have our panel discussion virtual roundtable session. I would like to invite the members. I see that South Sudan is now with us, so this is great. So Liko Bottoman, he is the Director of Social Cohesion and Equity, Department of Education in South Africa. Liko, are you able to open your camera now? I know you were switching devices. Hopefully we can see you. Liko, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Perfect. Oh, fantastic. Nice to see you. It's like old times. Okay. And then number 2, from the Gambia, can I invite you, Lamin Fedara, please, to join us? Can you put on your camera? So nice to see you too. Very great. And then Mama Esther, are you with us from South Sudan? She's the Director General of Gender Equity and Inclusive Education from the Ministry of Education and Instruction, Republic of South Sudan. If not, the representative from South Sudan can, I see there is somebody from South Sudan. Can you open your camera and join us if possible? If not, please let us know. I know sometimes. Meiling, Christine, are you joining us on behalf, or? Okay. I see Meiling is there, but she's not. Is there a problem, Meiling, to join us from South Sudan? If not, please, when you can. You're okay.
Yes,
You're coming
yes,
on.
Melinda. This is not Meling. This is Sonia.
Okay, Sonia. Hello.
Yeah.
How
Hi.
are you?
I'm fine. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So
Yeah.
great for joining us. So you will be representing the South Sudan delegation?
Yeah, Esther could not join. It seems she's having network problem. She's in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we appreciate the efforts and thank you for representing South Sudan. I will go over the questions. We have 4 questions, and maybe just as a general roundtable, we can start with you, Sonia. What was kind of your main takeaway from the ILE? What did you that was a main kind of takeaway for you and your delegation as you were kind of reflecting on that?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Through our discussion with the group, with the colleagues, our takeaways is on ILE is the dissemination of the guidelines, especially on the policies issues. We are looking at the policies and also how we can come up with the policies after knowing that policies are the main important things, especially to push washing in schools in South Sudan. And lack of that, things will not move well. And also we look at the WinS indicators, especially the AMIs which we have need to be integrated or aligned with joint monitoring program indicators, which is lacking in South Sudan. After getting that, after the conference, we really look at that. It is an important area to realign the indicators of WinS in the EMIs. And also the follow-up on the data usage, especially now the funding is becoming very strict, especially for washing schools. We need to develop the evidence-based needs. Where there is evidence, we have to advocate for it, and we look for priorities areas, especially areas which are not being served, need to really be served. As a part of this takeaway from the training. Yeah, and also we look at the participation, especially on the uh, visit of a school wash in Zanzibar. We saw the importance of community participation and the learners in washing in schools, especially on the management of the facilities in schools. It is one of the good practices we have really seen, and we have taken note of that. We need to involve
Thank
all,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Sonia. Yeah, so for you, it was really around the policy dissemination, needing to make sure that the documents get out, following up on data usage, and also focusing on priority areas to be served, as well as you saw very much the importance of community contribution and involvement. And so thank you for sharing that. I'll get to some more questions. I just want to make sure we get everybody in on this question. So Liko, I don't know if you're having technical
Thank you.
difficulties. Yeah, thank you, Sonia. Do you want to get into the same, or maybe I give you a minute? Are you able to hear me, Liko?
No, I'm fine. My apologies. Someone
No,
had stepped
you're good.
inside my
You're
office.
you're good. I know. Listen, we're glad to have you. I know it's busy times. This is the middle of the day. So, can you say what were your takeaways as a delegation, but personally about the ILE experience for you?
I think for us in South Africa, it has been quite an eye-opener in the sense that the way that we are organized in terms of washing schools needed to be modified a little bit, just learning from the international experience. For example, for a very long time, our washing schools program has always been just about hand washing, oral hygiene, and a toilet hygiene. But the elements around infrastructure and elements around menstrual hygiene were not so prominent. In fact, what we had done in South Africa was to then dismantle that offering or that package of washing schools so that the infrastructure elements are sitting with the education infrastructure unit at DBE. And the menstrual hygiene management has always been regarded as a gender equity program, which is sitting with our gender empowerment and gender equity units away from the washing schools. So from the African and international experience, we came back to South Africa and we've taken a strategic decision to pull these components together under one umbrella so that we are in alignment with the global standards and the global conceptualization of what washing schools should entail.
Very impressive, very impressive. And I guess looking at also budget and funding, it might be probably the best way to actually kind of pull forces together, not only technically, but also probably financially as well, too. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And Mr. Lamin, what were your takeaways from the Gambia and generally from the delegation on the experience? Because you had both last year and this year, and you've been very much involved, which we really appreciate the Gambians' input. So can you share what was your takeaway? Yeah, we just unmute so we can hear you. I think it's been remuted. Yeah, perfect. Now, perfect. I can hear you. 100%. Thank you.
Yes. So what I mean is the Gambian team showed the ILE as a knowledge management in Africa, particularly in WinS. But it's not just about documenting stories, but how the continent will be able to build systems and promote the learning environment in school. One of the major takeaways that the team highlighted is how will we ensure that WAS programming will be a holistic and integrated manner, where certain elements need to be looked at, that is menstrual hygiene, climate resilience, and also the economic factors. These are some of the takeaway points that our team see it necessary. Believe that for a better outcome, interventions in WIN, there is a need for us to be cognizant of a comprehensive capacity building for the students, for the teachers, and all the players within the school. If not, our interventions will not be very much fruitful. And then also there is an effort, there is a need for the schools to also look at the policies and also the engineering aspects, and then but this should be a holistic one, not to be looked at in a silo. They should be approached in a holistic way. But if you want to look at them separately, there'll be a challenge. That's also one of the takeaways that the team realized. And also there need to be inclusiveness in our designs, in our interventions in school, so that there'll be a sustainability. I think I remember in one of our the schools that we visited in Zanzibar, one thing I can remember is we need to involve the parents in our washing. The school where we went to two schools, but one of the schools that we found that their wash infrastructures are good. There's a very good hygiene practice. The involvement of the parents in WIN is very high. So that's also a key takeaway home that we brought in the Gambia.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I I see some similarities in some of the takeaways, which is great that you're seeing this obviously Washington schools be much more holistic and coming together, whether it's strategic components to working on them, or and the involvement of parents both came as well. So then we can go on to the next question, and maybe Lamin, since you're already on, and I will then go to Sonia and Mei-Ling, but when Bella has just presented the outcome documents with those various areas, when you look at the case of the Gambia, which is the kind of the prioritized area you see that you would be focusing on as a delegation from the outcome? Lamin, can you start? Yeah, you're gonna have to unmute. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yes, all the outcome areas are relevant, and then they need countries need to intervene in all the 4 areas. But as a country, we are thinking of monitoring and accountability as a priority area, and accountability as a priority area. And our team believe that having a robust monitoring and accountability mechanism in place will enhance our efforts to ensure a data-driven decision-making, where you can present your case to policymakers and then they will understand. You give them tangible data, and also it ensures transparency and resource allocation. Because if you have a clear data on water, sanitation, and hygiene in various schools, and also you presented gaps, the policymakers will be able to allocate resources, and then also
that's right.
there are a lot of focus, and this will eventually prevent waterborne diseases in school, promote students' health and well-being, and also enhance education outcomes, because absenteeism will be reduced, and also there is a fostering of a learning environment for students, and then obviously we'll be able to meet the regulatory standards also. So basically, as a country, our priority area is monitoring and accountability.
Yeah. So given that you are in the Ministry of Health, but so will the data be within Ministry of Health, or was it more with Ministry of Education, or what is the current arrangements now in terms of Washington schools and data? Who's kind of holding it right now?
Okay, right now, Ministry of Education is holding. There are certain data in Ministry of Health, but I think this is supposed to be our next question, but I will answer now. What we are working on as a country now is how do we improve our MS system. We have an MS system as education management information system, which are some indicators, but they are not aligned with the JMP. So one of our priority areas is how do we work on that, strengthen it, incorporate indicators that are aligned with JMP. But basically, your question, the data is domiciled at the Ministry of Education.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So I'll come back to the last one on finances with you later, so you can just relax for a bit. And then now I go to South Sudan, Sonia and Mei-Ling. I wanted to ask you the 2 kind of questions. First, number 1, Sonia, are you with us again? Mei-Ling, are you with us?
Yes, Mei-Ling is here.
Hi, Mei-Ling.
Hi.
So, I have 2 questions to ask for the South Sudan. So basically, Bella presented the outcome document, a number of areas. When you review those areas, everything from leadership down to monitoring, accountability, and so forth, what is the area that you think or the South Sudan team is going to focus on? So maybe if you can share a bit of that, and why do you prioritize that area? So whether it's around the leadership integration, the policy implementation, I think you kind of mentioned policy anyway, but monitoring accountability or sustainable funding. What is the areas that you as a delegation see that as a key area of focus? Over to you, Mei-Ling.
Okay, let me come in. Yeah, then Sonia will come in later on. So apologies on behalf of our government counterparts. Are you hearing me?
Yes. We're hearing you perfectly, and no need to apologize. We're glad to have you joining
yes.
us.
Oh, okay, please. Yeah,
right
would have been
ahead,
happy for our government counterparts to be here. So we
Yeah,
discussed all this with them together, unfortunately. So priority area 1 is the leadership and coordination, just as you were discussing from Gambia. This is actually an issue. And in that regard, Esther and team actually have planned for a meeting with the line ministry so that this is really clear, so that we know where this portfolio will be sitting. So that is number 1. For the rest, I leave to Sonia to take us through, and then we can move to the next.
Yeah, thank you very much, Meling and the colleagues. Yeah, as part of priority areas, we look also at the policies as a guideline. We have already, after coming from the meeting, it is like an eye-opener, or it has already started engagement. The ministry has started engagement about the guideline. After that, when we arrived, the guideline for washing schools has been endorsed by the government. At least we have a working document which can guide all the partners in the country. And also we look at the EMIS part of the EMIS, where we need to really work on it. As I've mentioned before, we need to realign our EMIS data indicators, especially including washing schools. This is the second thing, the third thing which we need to really work on, so that the EMIS can be updated annually or periodically. We can update the EMIS, and the EMIS is always sits at the Ministry of Education in South Sudan. They are the one in charge of the EMIS data. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you're actually, there's quite a number of them that you'll be working on, from the policy side to also the data. So thank you very much. Liko, can we bring you back on to ask the same question? I think you alluded to it in kind of your takeaway, but when you look at the outcome document, where do you see as the priority focus for South Africa?
I think for South Africa, would have to look at what we can leverage on in terms of the offering we have in education infrastructure and sanitation appropriate for education. Because you know, it is the one thing, Belinda, to get inside the classroom, deliver content on hygiene, for example, how to dispose of your sanitary pads, how to wash your hands, if you don't provide infrastructure that needs to go with that. So these two kind of need to speak to each other, and we do need to say that all the actors in the space of washing schools, whether you're coming to give us soap or you're coming to provide teacher training for a good hand hygiene habits, we do need to ensure that we also provide space for partners to also support the infrastructure that must support those, you know, good behaviors. Otherwise, we're just singing a song for the sake of singing that song. So we just need to keep each other accountable and push each other into a point where we're able to then make it also practicable for children. There's a preoccupation, Belinda, at the moment with our partners in Washington schools, a preoccupation that for it to happen, it has to be located in curriculum. Maybe there's truth to it, or maybe there isn't, because here we are talking about 2 hours in a week that also shares time with physical education, human rights education, civic education, comprehensive sexuality education, 2 hours in a week. So in essence, there isn't much that you can do within the curriculum space if you want to drive an effective and impactful WASH in Schools program. We need to begin to take advantage of what the co-curricular and the extracurricular spaces are providing for us, because they are not timed, they are not over-regulated, and they provide the space for us to be able to do all the things that we want to do without worrying about time. So those would be the two emphasis areas for us: the infrastructure and the balance between curricular and co-curricular spaces.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I've just put that into the chat for others to weigh in onto it, because it's there is always this thing that, yes, it's got to be integrated in the curriculum, it's got to be in the curriculum. But I think there is exactly a lot of merit to what you're saying. So questions out there to others to kind of chime in from your experience. Does it need to be in the curriculum? And what are some of the ways that it can work? So I guess we are just down to the last minute. So I'm going to go down to the last questions. So since you're unmuted, Liko, I'm going to let you continue. You can choose actually a quick reflection on the JMP report and MHH plans for monitoring MHH. Like, what are your plans there? And also the financing aspect. What do you guys see there? If you can just take a minute or so to answer that, and then I would just go a quick round robin and we close the session. So thank you. So reflections on MHH monitoring and also financial restrictions. If you see, how are you going to kind of tackle those?
So for us in South Africa, we were proposing that for us as member states, we don't need to start from scratch. In fact, the discussions we had at the International Learning Experience was that we would have to look at the current education management and information systems to look at what indicators are included there. And then when we look at the monitoring systems that have been set up for the global agenda, we'll look at what is it that we're not collecting that we need to collect, and what it is that is already in the MES, but that is not being collected, so that we consolidate that. It's always better to start with what you have, where you are, and then you can expand from that. And then in terms of the funding resources, again, there we've got to look at what already exists within the funding mechanisms for schools, so that before we begin to ask for new money from the national treasuries, we've got to look at what funding resources are available currently that could be easily linked directly to the WASH in Schools, and then we take it from there. And we've already identified what those funding sources are. The only work that needs to happen right now for South Africa is to program and conceptualize it properly. And also sometimes, Belinda, and I was saying this yesterday in the discussion about the same issue, that let us not, when you do that review exercise and that realignment exercise, don't be married to the nomenclature and your semantics in WASH in Schools. Sometimes use the language that is used in that current pot of money for you to be able to then activate that money to come and assist you with these new WASH in Schools priorities.
Liko, thank you very much. So wise and so absolutely clear. It's first to start and start taking is a key step to that, to both monitoring and financing. Thank you. Lamin, a minute on financing. From the perspective of the Gambia, how are you addressing financing? Yeah, and just unmute again, please. Sorry, the camera's off, but just unmute and then we can hear you perfectly fine. Perfect.
All right,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
So before going to financing, just a summary with regards to our reflection on JMP. I think one thing that we want to do as a country is, as I said earlier, to align our image with the JMP, and also how are we going to complete our worst fit assessment that we do, because previously we were able to, last year 2023 we assessed around 803 schools. Now we are thinking of assessing all the schools in the country to do an assessment of what's in all the schools. This will go into the finance where we'll be able to prioritize what kind of interventions are we going to do in each schools. This will help in our financing sector, because if you don't know, hello, if you
I can
don't
hear
know,
you. Go ahead.
yeah, if you don't know the gaps in the schools, it will be difficult to efficiently put in finance. But we think also in financing, there is a need for collaboration and partnership. Not just government, but we should think of how do we collaborate with NGOs, even local government. In case of like menstrual hygiene, if government is funding behavioral change or communication in menstrual hygiene, how can you partner with local governments with regards to the waste management component of menstrual hygiene? And then also behavioral change is important, because if there is no behavioral change in our students, teachers, and others, the infrastructures that we in schools will not be properly maintained, and then that will not be cost effective. So it is important, as a country, we wanted to concentrate on behavioral change to maximize the resources that has been invested in washing school. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farara. So, and then we take our last question to South Sudan. And thank you very, very much for making time and answering these questions. And I think the Gambia is on the right path. Thank you. So, South Sudan, please. The questions again around the JMP MHH. What plans are you taking for monitoring and reporting? We've only got 1 minute left, so I'm sorry. And as well, then, how are you going to address financing? Thank you.
Monitoring and reporting, yes. One is our EMIS. The EMIS has already captured a lot of information around washing schools. So what the team is, proposing is that there is need to review some of these indicators just to ensure that the hygiene component of it is clearly captured in the EMIS data. And then around financing, they also said it's important to identify, critical needs around washing schools and just to generate some evidence and then redirect available resources that the country has, particularly from humanitarian organizations, to address some of these gaps that will be identified in the school. So basically these two is just to review the EMIS or to update it according to existing gaps around hygiene in schools, and then redirecting resources available to existing gaps here, because other planning processes may take long. For example, having a specific line around financing at the government level will take some time, but what can we do based on what we already have in the country? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So again, thank all those who stepped in. So thank you, Malin Christine, to Mr. Lamin Ferreira, and as well to Mr. Liko Botoman from South Africa. Thank you all for your inputs. I think generally all the countries are very, I'm not a teacher to check you off, but I do feel that there is really great sort of reflections and progress, stock taking on what you have, looking at the opportunities within countries, using the available data and using that to plan. And that seems perfect logical sense. And hopefully we can learn more about this journey. So as we close, for those who took part in the ILE, we welcome you to complete the evaluation that will stay here. You can scan the code, or you can take the link off on the chat. I want to again thank everybody for attending and participating. Questions, comments, let's keep that exchange going on. Also, I believe March has set up something, a link for all the photos and information. So let's continue the exchange. We have our WhatsApp group as well. So thank you all. Have a great day. And let's continue our work as WinS champions. Have a great day. And thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Thank you, Bella, too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Belinda, also from all of us. Thanks for moderation. Thanks.